Alan Lewis, Ken Ballin, welcome. How you guys doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm
I'm
doing
good.
good, good. All right. So let's start this off. We'll go with Ken first. Give me just a little bit of background on you. Name, business, any specialty you have, where you're at, how long you've been doing it.
Okay, no worries. Now, I'm Ken Ballin. I own Skyro Floors. I've been installing flooring for the better part of a decade. I am CFI certified installer, a CTI certified installer, and I do tile, wood, vinyl plank, laminate, hard surface flooring, that sort of thing.
Okay. And Alan?
Yeah, I'm Alan Lewis. I work at Eagle Interiors in Phoenix City, Alabama. I've pretty much been installing for about 18 years full time and been in the business with my dad a long time since I was little. And I'm 35 now. I'm R1C1, R2C2, and CTI certified.
Well, I think that's great. You guys got these certifications. That's why we've got you on the show. You recently had the experience of being able to go to Surfaces and compete in the Installer of the Year competition. But before we get to that, I want to know what the road is that got you guys there. So let's talk about certifications and the importance of them, why you went and got those.
I started out installing laminate and hardwood, and then I moved into tile. At the time, I had started installing with Lowe's, and CFI was doing their trainings and certifications. So I had taken the class because, they were paying for it. And then I kept taking the classes because, well, they were still paying for it. So I have honestly taken the wood and laminate class and the tile class probably, 3 or 4 times each, just because they were doing it. But, it wasn't just to keep doing it, over for repetitive reasons. It was just, the benefit that I got from it was, aside from the certification, was the people that I met there. And, kind of the same thing with the CTI. We have, these online forums, these Facebook groups where we have access to this information. And so after I found out about the CTEF, I went and took the test and got certified and everything. I just go nuts for any trainings or certifications or, programs that the vendors put on, anything like that I can. I just, it's a big part of what I try to do.
Alan, how about you? How did you end up getting certified?
We got into it from reading the installer magazines, and we started learning a little bit from those, or my dad kind of teaching us along. And then we started going to this. We found out about CFI and started going to their certifications. And we thought, we could do that. And when we went to those certifications to show your skill set, we actually succeeded at it. And once we succeeded at it the first time, it lit that fire in you to learn more. And like Ken said, you get around the people that do know more and know fundamental ways to successfully install carpet or vinyl or whatever it is. And that's kind of where I started, was the carpet certifications. We got better and better at that. And then you just open up the doors to the wood training, the wood workshops, the Schluter workshops, the Prova workshops, the Armstrong workshops, and you just keep on clicking along and learn all you can learn from anybody that you can get in contact with, and it just gives you this fire for the industry that you could just about take anywhere. That's what got us going and why we get certified.
I hear a lot about guys that have gone and taken certification classes, whether it's with National Wood Flooring Association on the solid hardwood side, to you guys talking about CTI certifications, that you go and you meet these people, you build these relationships, and it's not necessarily just about the training, but it's about these relationships that you can build. And then the other aspect that I see that's really important about it is, how would you feel if you went to, let's say a brain surgeon and you knew he hadn't done any continuing education in the past 5 or 10 years? How comfortable with that would you be? And so why should it be any different for our trade? We need to be out there. We need to be getting this continuing education. We need to hone our skills. We need to follow up and refresh and compare and contrast with other guys about, are there better ways to do this? And is there a way to simplify this method?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So from that perspective, besides some of the benefits that I've already gone over of, being able to hone your skills and really pushing the envelope with continuing your education instead of being that guy that's stuck of, I've done it this way for 30 years and I'm just going to continue to do it that way. What are some of the other benefits that we're going to get out of taking these certification classes, whether, they're put on by the manufacturers or an independent organization?
Well, you know what? I think it's important that aside from the certification in itself, it really turns into a networking thing and the connections that you make with these people while you're there. Yes, you're getting the certification. Yes, you're getting the knowledge, but it's really more about unity and coming together and setting the standard for how we should all behave professionally and personally. And, you'll pick up different tips and tricks and things from different installers, but, you can kind of see how people interact with each other. And I think it's even more important than the certification is kind of that building that brotherhood and sisterhood, we strive to achieve, from getting involved in the industry.
I agree with you right there. You hit the nail on the head for me. It really plugs you into the industry, whether it's a CFI or any other organization. The manufacturers are leading the charge on developing new products and different applications. And the thing I see most, especially you hit a while ago with the social media, you can actually see how the trends are coming across our nation. I had no idea that people still mudded showers and why they wouldn't use the easier products. But I learned, hey, these guys mud showers, they're good at it. I want to learn that. It plugs you into the industry. It reaches far and wide to learn new products, learn new applications. New tips and tricks from anybody.
So all that being said, what I'm picking up here is that you guys are viewing this industry as a brotherhood. And so when you see another installer in your area, are you looking at them as competition, or are you looking at that as somebody else that can help you bring this industry up?
No, you know what? It's not competition at all, and it's funny you mentioned that because I was just at our local Avalon tile store had a contractor event the other night, and I was at it, and I was talking to one of the employees, and they were mentioning about being around competition, and I said to him, they're not my competition. That's not how you need to view this thing. We're in this together. We work together to build pricing and, gain knowledge and share our techniques and tips and tricks. And, nothing would benefit us more than everybody, raising the prices, charging even, you're not going to get everybody to charge the same thing, but, having everybody charge the same thing and selling yourself as opposed to the cheaper price. So anytime that I can go to one of these events and meet other installers, talk to other installers, and, give them my thoughts on things and get their thoughts on things, I just think it's good for all of us as a whole to, again, I talk about that unity, that coming together and being, a joint force that has an effect on the industry. And, it really comes down to spreading knowledge and love instead of just taking and gimme, and mine,
Yeah, it develops a constant industry standard or industry set performance. That's what's I feel like it's gonna bring the prices up, or I feel like that's what is definitely the difference of, hey, you're not my competition. I'm here. If you need to know something, I'll help you as much as I can. It's just, if you know something I don't know, I want you to tell me what I'm doing wrong. I don't mind it one bit. You're not going to step on my toes at all. And I feel like it's exactly a brotherhood for me and just helping the industry grow.
I couldn't agree more. I haven't met and been able to network with a lot of installers in my area yet, but I do have the guy that trained me, and we're both young, and we trade information back and forth about, hey, how would you do this? How do you do that? How can I up my game? And we try and build each other up. And I think that's what really needs to happen. You've always heard these stories from the trades from years and years ago of, I worked under a guy, but he would never tell me how to do it. I had to figure it out myself. And why wouldn't you pass on that knowledge, especially when it's something that you depend upon? You know, why would you want that to go by the wayside if you have a better way of doing something? You know, we've got to make it easier and teach these people, these kids coming into it, so that they can flourish in the trade when they go out on their own. Like, why would you want to hold anybody back?
Absolutely.
I remember whenever I was young, I know it's probably story time with me, but whenever I was young, we would go into the supply house, and everybody's in there, and you can feel the tension. Hey, I'm not going to say anything to this guy. You know, he might be trying to steal my work. And I made a conscious effort on my part to not be like that at all. I speak to every installer that I come across. You know, I give them the howdy do, you know, all that stuff. But, you know, I try to develop a friendship. Me and another guy kind of became friends with in our area. We went to another guy's job that pretty much I bid on, and he got it. But, you know, I wanted to see the large format that he was doing, the large format tile he was doing. And I came in, introduced myself, and congratulated him, and told him, you know, that's a good job, and you're doing a good job, you know. And I feel like that's what needs to happen across the board. You know, you got to really develop a relationship with everybody in your area to get the quality of installation.
It comes down to communication too. You know, it comes down a lot to communication and how you deal with others. And, you know, we talk about it, and it's simple stuff too. It's simple. It goes back to how your parents taught you to be kind to others. You know, you spread kindness, you be kind to other installers, and generally speaking, they'll behave the same way back to you. If you come off as, you know, a know-it-all, or, you know, I'm better than you, or my techniques are better, like it just makes a bad environment. So it just really, you know, if I can emphasize one thing, it's just being kind to your fellow man, you know?
Yeah.
No, I think that's all great stuff. So how do we go about implementing these certifications into our business? You know, where I'm from out here in the Southwest, there's not a lot of certification classes. CTI doesn't make it out here. I've looked into trying to find a space, and maybe our warehouses aren't big enough, you know, and then to try and find the installers that would be interested is another challenge. You know, I always see the classes, they're Midwest, East Coast.
Well, I think what you're going to run into, and especially in areas where you don't have a lot of installers, is you're going to have to really tap into your resources. Like, I'll give you an example. You know, CFI always says, well, you know, give me 10 guys and I'll get you a class wherever you want. We just need 10 people to make it happen. And, you know, the CTF is kind of the same, where when we had the first CTI test in New Jersey, there was a group of us that really wanted it. And we were lucky enough to have our Schluter rep, Shannon, be able to pull it together for us. And they, you know, kind of hosted the CTI tests with the CTF for us. And we, you know, through our connections online, we were able to get a group of 8 to 10 of us together to take that test that were really interested, you know, and they made it happen for us. It wasn't scheduled. It wasn't on the calendar. But, you know, we said, you know, we've got the people, we got the interest, we've got this awesome company that's backing us up that wants to host. And, you know, we've got this incredible rep that really, you know, she really goes out of her way to support us all. You know, I talk about contacts online, but it's contacts in general. And, you know, to have somebody like that just backs us up, and she backs all of us across the country up. It doesn't have to be, Roy could call her and she's answering questions. Somebody in California could call and ask her and answering questions. And, you know, she's my rep. Well, technically she's not even my rep anymore. She's the next area up. But, you know, she never once turns down somebody looking for help.
She's dedicated to the industry just like we are, and that's what makes the difference.
Correct. Yeah, I can see that. I think that's going to be a big part of it, is that you guys are passionate about what you do. You know, you go home and you talk flooring and you drive your wives nuts just like I drive mine nuts. And, you know, we're all passionate about this on a different level. There's a lot of guys that, you know, they can do it, and they do it because it can pay the bills. And I don't want to pay the bills. I want to leave my mark behind, whether that's with a piece that everybody sees and is in awe of, or it comes down to the relationships that I've built and something that I've been able to do for the industry. And, you know, I want to make sure that something's left behind that's going to make people strive to get to that point and really push themselves to be the best installer that they can do. And I think that's what you guys are after too.
Oh, definitely. Definitely, absolutely.
So sticking with this implementation of how do we get these certifications into our companies. Now, Ken, I know you generally work by yourself. Alan, you've got some guys. So have you, Ken, if you did bring somebody on because you had the workload, would you pay for them to go to the certification classes, or would you just teach them what you knew? And then, Alan, when you answer, have you sent your guys to certification classes yet?
I think, I mean, if I'm bringing somebody on, then I want them to go through, I want them to go through the same certifications I have. I will start out training them, and, once they get to the point where I think they're ready to pursue that, then I would obviously, encourage them to do that and absolutely foot the bill. And, it's kind of funny because everybody says, well, you end up training your replacement or training your competition. Mm-hmm. And I've always looked at it as, my helpers are only as good as I allow them to be. So I want to set them up for success. I want to train them so they can leave, but treat them so they don't want to.
I agree with that. I think I would send them no matter what. I've got some guys that's been with me 3 and 4 years, and I've gave them the resources that I had, or, the paperwork, the study guides. I kept all that stuff in a binder, and I make copies of it and gave it to them. Hey, y'all study this. I'd like for y'all to do this next year. There's a couple of them that if you're going to get an increase in pay rate, you got to, show me that this, through CFI, through a certification. And I wouldn't mind going to it with them and paying for it. My dad and, through our family business, we paid for, or they have paid for most of all of our certifications as we came up through the business. I've actually got a friend of mine. One of them's been working with me, and we was talking about the other day, and we've been together about 15 years, kind of off and on. And the other one, we grew up in the same neighborhood that installs, and he done the same thing I've done, and gone through the certifications and continued the education when he worked for my parents. So I think you have to contribute to get anything back out of the knowledge. You got to put it out there and let them get it. And if they can replace you, that's what you want. You're not going to install forever. If you're planning on installing forever, you're in the wrong business, because you're just going to wear out. You've got to be making those next steps. You got to have the guys behind you that's going to, set the precedence to something higher than you did. You don't want to be known, or you don't want the industry to be known just old floor layers. And it's becoming more of a craft now, more so of a craft than it used to be, I feel like. So yeah, you got to send them to educate.
I think it comes down to the best way that you can sum that up simply is, what if we train the person right and they leave? But what if we don't train them and they stay?
Yeah.
The best way is train them right, treat them right, and hope they stick around. And if they leave, it should just elevate the work in the market. Now, what I think is an interesting point that you brought up is you just said that it's becoming more of a artistic thing. And I think people are starting to realize that, but I think it's always been that. I think a lot of us get into it specifically because we do like that kind of artsy thing. For me, that's my favorite thing. I can go and lay a rectangle room all day long, but that's boring. It's those little projects where you've got to start thinking creatively and figure out, how can I make these products work together when they're not meant to do what I'm trying to do with them. And so let's talk about that a little bit. These certifications push our limits and raise our skills. So what are we taking away from that, and how do you guys get artsy with your projects and really try and push the limits?
Well, I think that, there's always that element of, making something work, and not necessarily making something work in the sense of, just installing it, but making it work for the application, making it work for the customer. And, you kind of get these opportunities, and it really depends on how you present them to the customer, because it may be something that they haven't even thought of. And I think the perfect example is like I did a shower pan with these pebbles from Island Stone, and they came out of the box. It was like a black and white mix, and they came out of the box, and the black pebbles were a perfect square around the perimeter with like 2 or 3 in the middle, and the rest were all white. So if you had laid these pebbles in the pan exactly how they say, it would have looked like a tic-tac-toe board. So, I showed it to the customer, and I explained my thoughts, and I said, well, how open are you to the idea of me being going a little freestyle with it? And she said, well, I've seen the rest of your work. I love it. She said, go nuts, do whatever you want. So I went and I usually pull the pebbles off the mesh anyway when I'm setting them. But I kind of, swirl the black ones around the drain, and she had these extra fish that I put in on the around like sporadically. And, she went nuts for it. It came out really cool. But, you need to be willing to take those risks and take those chances that, the customer may not know what you can do, but, you take the time and you show them, and you kind of get that vote of confidence from them to kind of go off on your own a little bit.
Alan, you have anything that you're looking to do and get creative with, or, do you look for those opportunities?
Yeah. I mean, we're always, especially with my dad, we're always making something or, fitting something, or, I mean, we're always creating. I love to watch him do, he's more of the artsy kind of person. I'm more of the, straight, balance, all of that kind of stuff. And he's real crafty, and I wish I had a little more of that in me. And maybe it's something I develop a little later on in life. But man, we make a lot of things to fit. We try to blend and look like things are not remodels. You want to make it look like it was made with the house, and have that blend to it. And that takes a lot of art and just creating things to match and blend from one old something to blend to their new floor in their other room. It's a lot of craftsmanship to that, and that's basically all I could do with it.
I ran into a situation. A couple invited me out to give them a bid on their steps, and they were open on one side, but they didn't want to do any new drywall or texture over it, and they were using laminate. They didn't quite know how to get these stairs to work, and at this point, it's really the showpiece of my career almost. And so I was sitting there talking with them, and I'm running through options. And they were like, yeah, everyone's kind of told us this. We're not really thrilled with what we're hearing. And I was like, all right. And so we were just kind of sitting there chatting, getting to know each other a little better. And all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, putting wood on walls is really popular right now. And they were like, okay. I was like, well, do you have any of the stuff laying around? Like, I got this idea and I can kind of show it to you. And so I slapped a piece up on the wall, and I was holding it there, and I put a piece in front where the riser was, and I started explaining how I could miter the corners together and wrap the risers around onto the wall and then run it down the wall, and they fell in love with it. And it's the fastest I've ever gotten a job. I got home, I typed up the estimate, and they had sent me an email back within 3 hours confirming that they wanted to book it and go forward. And then once I did that, I was like, oh, well, I've talked myself into it. Theoretically, it's all possible, but how am I going to actually do it?
Now you have to actually execute it.
Yeah. And so I brought in somebody to help me with that. The guy that trained me, I brought him in, and we actually knocked it out in 2 days, and it looks phenomenal, and then I took the extra time. I laid the landing on a 45 so that it flowed better when you went up the stairs and around the corner, and it just turned out looking phenomenal. But it was Pergo laminate, and so, it's nothing fancy, but to get that not to chip out on the corners and not have to use any filler and stuff, like that's what really inspired me to keep going after that kind of niche market. Like, I would love to get into just doing these artistic, really out of the box projects.
I remember you posting that. That was like really cool project.
Yeah, no, that was a fun one. So I think that's, between these certifications and trying to implement them and get the younger next generation brought up, it's things like that are really going to push the limits and keep us all excited and wanting to push forward. Why don't we go ahead and wrap this up? Ken, why don't you go ahead, give us your business name, your number again, and anywhere they can find you online, and then Alan will let you do the same thing.
Well, I'm Ken Ballin. I own Skyro Floors. I am in South Jersey by Long Beach Island. I install hardwood, vinyl plank, ceramic tile. Number is 609-276-9299. Anybody can feel free to reach out at any time for any reason, even if it's just to answer questions or anything like that. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Skyro Floors, as well as on the CFI, Certified Floor Covering Installers Registry at cfiinstallers.org, and the CTI Registry at ceramictilefoundation.org.
I'm Alan Lewis, and work with Eagle Interiors in Phoenix City, Alabama. The number is 298-0071, and you can find us on the internet at eagleinteriors.com.